author, Nisa Darban, Executive Editor-at-Large, will discuss Block BTU with Chief Commercial Officer of ZeroSix, Sam Holroyd. Please welcome them to the stage.
Good morning. Good morning. Day 3 of SUPERDUG. More than 50 speakers, and I've learned a great deal. I hope you have as well. I suspect you have learned a lot about what's going on in the industry, the latest, greatest, and then also General Clark gave a very distinct perspective on what's going on in government and what's not going on in government and our relationships around the world. I would really like to learn more from him. So this session, blockchain has found oil and gas. We're familiar with crypto mining using stranded gas, and then also oil and gas operators. Devon Energy is among them. As a group, a consortium is building a blockchain for a no middleman payment system for oil field services. But more specifically in this session, we'll learn about the transparent trading of carbon offsets via blockchain, but even better, monetizing success in P&A. Please welcome Sam Holroyd.
Good morning, and thank you for showing up on a rainy Wednesday when I know you were all out having a fabulous time at the event last night. Really appreciate it. Good to see you all. Thank you, Nissa. Just quickly, by show of hands, because I want to get a sense of kind of the audience's understanding of the world we're going to talk about here. How many of you are working in an operating company that has oil and gas production? Okay, very good. And how many of you in those oil and gas companies have some sort of emissions or net zero ambition within the corporation? I don't want to know the number, and I don't want to know if it's public. I just want to know, are you trying to do the good thing? Okay, so we've got some folks who understand a little bit of what I'm going to talk about, and hopefully I can educate some of those of you who may not have progressed yet. We're going to start with December 22. The EIA published that there were a little over 900,000 operating wells in the U.S. Making up our production. The bottom 25% of those wells produce less than 1 barrel a day, less than 0.2 of the total production a day, and generate 11% of the emissions from our industry. I think that's an important grounding statistic that will help you appreciate why we at ZeroSix are passionate about what we've created here. We think the oil and gas industry can reduce emissions and convert your P&A to carbon credit assets. What we have developed in order to support you doing this is a proprietary protocol that will move your P&A liabilities and the reserves that you leave in the ground into carbon credit assets that you can trade, sell, or hold out onto the voluntary carbon market. So let's talk voluntary carbon market. Carbon credits are a really critical component for corporations across the world in all industries who have set a net zero commitment. And it's important to recognize that 80% of the CO2 emissions are actually related to the burning of fossil fuels. So we have an obligation, we have an opportunity to be part of the solution of what's happening in the carbon markets. ZeroSix, again, wants to focus on the bottom quartile of the production in the United States. And hopefully some of the operators in this room can acknowledge that you may have some of those assets in your asset base. But what's really happening in the marketplace over the past few months, as you've seen in the press, is that the buyers, the brokers, and the traders of these carbon credits are now demanding a higher standard. They are demanding more quality. They are demanding more transparency. They are demanding to know the source of those carbon credits and a few key components, which we're going to get into a little bit further than the presentation. What you may not know yet, if you're not trading in the voluntary carbon market, is that this market is expected to surge over the next 5 to 10 years. We're actually seeing evidence it's happening today. Keep in mind that over a third large publicly traded companies have set a net zero target, and that their intent there is to avoid or reduce their own emissions. But they're not going to be successful in doing that through their own operations. They're going to have to transact on the voluntary carbon market to really begin to meet their targets. These offsets are, through the carbon markets, the demand is increasing exponentially. And again, the focus now is not just on the supply of the credits, but also on the quality of the credits being delivered. In 2022, we actually hit one of our key supply-demand barriers, and now we have a real imbalance developing as we move into 2023. So what does ZeroSix do? We're going to start here with what I call my what slide. Working with you as operators and owners of these assets, we're going to take the most polluting, least economic wells. We're going to work with you to apply the ZeroSix protocol. It's a proprietary protocol. And through that protocol, which is fully integrated on a blockchain technology, we're going to create what used to be oil and gas volumes, and we're going to transition those into carbon credits. You will then permanently abandon those wells and the production from the production area, from the project area. We will convert those volumes into carbon credits, ultimately minting a carbon credit, which will be tokenized and available for trading on the voluntary carbon market. Now, as the project owner, what you will have at the end of the protocol and the process that you go through is you will have a digital wallet and you will have a pool of carbon credits. You have the ability to do anything you want to with those credits. You can choose to trade them on the voluntary carbon market. You can choose to hold them for future needs or for future commodity appreciation if you're watching the commodity market of carbon credits. Or you can retire a portion of those carbon credits to meet your own net zero ambitions within your company. So here we are. We're taking your liabilities and we're turning them into today's assets. So now I'm going to talk about the how. This is the how slide because it really helps articulate what ZeroSix wants to bring to the marketplace. The voluntary carbon market and the buyers are identified 4 key components of really improving the quality of credits. Accuracy, we'll start right at the top. What we do in the protocol is we require that the reserves are reported following an SEC reserve report. So we've got something that's standardized from all oil and gas operators. You all know the terms of those reports. If we move into additional, the key component for additional is that we look at wells and operations that would have previously been both mechanically and economically capable of producing. That helps us meet this additionality claim. This is where some of the weakness in the nature-based carbon credits is really falling apart. You've seen some of that again if you've watched the news. Permanence. Okay, this is the big one. We really want those wells to be permanently abandoned. We'd like to make sure that there's no future extraction from the project area. These are key criteria for moving forward. And then the last one is what we've brought to the table through the blockchain technology. That's the transparency. So everything that you do along the process here will be fully tokenized. We will then mint those tokens for you that become your asset at the end of the day. So let's talk a little bit about the eligibility of the reserve volumes, because there are some subtleties in here, and I don't want to waste any time. I want you to understand where we are. So with respect to additionality, regulatory, first of all, the project owner on the ZeroSix platform will be the operator of record with the state. Second, we want financial. We are going to only help you support progression of these assets if they are economically producible. And then the third component, operational. So we look for wells that are classified within the state oil and gas regulations. Doesn't matter what state you're operating in, but they just need to be classified as active. We have some other protocols developing that will address inactive and orphaned wells, but for now, we're focused on those most valuable, most polluting wells. The qualifications for permanence, three key components here. Geologic, we want to look for the boundaries of that project area. We want to be able to define those, and then deliver a restriction for no reserve migration, or production from that project area. We also want to make sure there's no new development within the area, and ZeroSix takes that on as part of our ongoing monetization of the project area post the operation. And then within the legal, we look for a moratorium on mineral rights. So there have been other, there are other folks talking about oil and gas credits, and we think what's critical here is that you appreciate the ZeroSix protocol considers and gives credit for all three scopes that oil and gas reserves would have previously contributed to the carbon impact. And so downstream is kind of the 50 to 80% bucket. Upstream, 1 to 2%, or scopes 1 and 2 is the upstream operations, and scope 3 is that refining component. We also think it's important, again, back to the accuracy component, is that you appreciate what we do to validate and to make sure we have the highest quality of accuracy on the volumes. First component of that is the SEC report, looking at the future economic recovery of the existing oil and gas operations. The second component is we'll work with you on all of the resource fluid quality requirements. So you'll send us a report on that, and we'll use that as the quality for the reserves that are then being converted into carbon. So we're checking all the boxes that the voluntary carbon market is demanding today. So blockchain solution. If you're not currently active in a blockchain environment, and some of you who may know me from the audience might know that I'm a petroleum engineer, so this is new to me as well. But here's what's exciting about the blockchain technology. This is a permanent proof of all of the validations that we've been talking about. The blockchain technology provides the opportunity for a digital solution that is independently verifiable. What I mean by that is, once we've captured all this data and gone through the process and generated the oil and gas reserves, the blockchain is enabling the buyer of those credits or anyone in the future to have full transparency about where those assets came from, how they were generated. And this blockchain technology is the key to delivering quality and transparency on our credits. You see on the left here the kind of some key bullets: decentralized verification, fully digital, compliant by design. The ZeroSix protocol follows existing regulations, so I'm not going to ask you to execute a P&A operation in a manner that doesn't meet the state's requirements. So everything here is intended really to follow existing regulations. Independently verifiable. We've already got some relationships with verifiers that are helping us deliver high quality verification. And this whole operation is very scalable for you and for us because it's fully digital. But why stop here? So we think there's a real opportunity. We've started in the oil and gas industry with the ZeroSix technology, the integration of a methodology and the blockchain technology. And we think there's a real opportunity to evolve. So the first thing you'll find out is we've got this oil and gas abandonment protocol ready to go. The second developing protocol, which will be out later this summer, is the protocol addressing orphaned or inactive wellbores and fugitive emissions. We're then progressing pretty rapidly into the sequestration and conversion to sequestration. So there's going to be lots of opportunity for the integration of these methodologies and the blockchain technology together. So ZeroSix has an innovative digital solution to create and manage high-quality engineered carbon credits for the voluntary carbon market. We want to invite you to come spend some time with us, hear more about it, screen some assets that you may have. But more importantly, I want to announce today at SUPERDUG that ZeroSix has released our protocol publicly. It is now available as of this morning on our website. We have opened up a 30-day comment period, and because our name is ZeroSix, on 0606, so June 6th, we will be hosting a town hall and a discussion where you can learn more about our protocol, about how your projects might be eligible, and about moving forward. We hope to work with you on moving your carbon or your P&A liabilities to carbon credit assets. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. And the town hall, I think, will be virtual.
Yes.
So you can attend from wherever you are. This is very exciting what you're doing. I've been wondering when blockchain would more penetrate the oil and gas industry, and there are so many different ways to go about it. The candidate wells, where you describe, your most polluting wells, you could have a field of, 50 really old wells that are on pump jack, and maybe 10 are your most polluting. But could there be instances where, just for practical purposes, you go ahead and shut in permanently all 50?
Yeah, and I think that's really the value proposition that we hold ourselves to, and that's why we like to pre-screen a lot of projects. In pre-screening the projects, I want to make sure that when you, as an operator, have to accelerate that capital allocation and capital expenditure of the P&A liability, you don't get to have another 2, 3, 5, or 10 years of cash flow, but you have to accelerate that capital expenditure. We do some what I call break-even math, and we validate that what kind of backing into what carbon credit price you would need to sell the carbon credit volumes that you're going to create on the market to actually make sure that this is close to or a break-even proposal. So the nice thing about that is for most of the projects we've screened to date, we're seeing that the necessary break-even carbon credit price is somewhere between $15 and $25 a ton. And that is really right where the market is trading today, with indications that it is rapidly expanding into kind of the $80+ a ton over the next 5 to 7 years.
I would think for a smaller operator that it would be able to, for these upfront costs, collateralize what the eventual carbon credits, the income from that, collateralize that in front of a bank to receive a loan to fund it. Is that an option so that smaller operators can get into this?
Look, I think we're still early in the voluntary carbon markets. I'm sure there are some investors / maybe banks that are open to partnering with an oil and gas company in terms of the voluntary carbon market, because even banks have their own net zero ambitions. So perhaps that's the relationship you approach them with is, hey, we'll contribute a portion of these if we can get some money to prematurely abandon the resource. And so I think you're finding, at least in the marketplace, as we progress the conversations, we're finding an amazing amount of folks who are looking for ways themselves to just access carbon credits.
And you had this on one of the slides. I missed the latter part. It was 2 barrels of oil equal how many?
About 1 carbon credit.
1 carbon credit.
Yeah, 1 ton of carbon credit. Yeah.
And 1 ton is going for like 15 to 25.
That's basically what the markets are showing. In fact, one of our head of engineering had circulated a recent report that said actually it's closer to, for these engineered credits, it's closer to $26 just over the last kind of 6 to 8 months. And so we're rapidly seeing the transaction prices move north. And I think the quality is critical.
And I like to, all of you stack your wells. I like to stack opportunities. I'm thinking if you have a field, let's say it's in Oklahoma, you've got 50 very old, shallow, vertical, conventional wells that you're looking to shut in. Possibly there could be an operator that, if not in Oklahoma, but there is potential deeper to turn it into a geothermal field, I would think you're now doubling down, you're piling on to the carbon offset possibilities there. Do you have any prospective participants who have already mentioned their interest in doing that?
We have not had any perfect candidates for the geothermal, but where we have had a really exciting evolution with some of the conversations with our key clients. Once we worked the project area, defined the project, and really focused on that reservoir boundary, both vertically and laterally, we started recognizing that the ideal candidates for abandonment of your well, premature abandonment of your well, was also an ideal target for a future sequestration site. And so for 2 of our clients, we've actually progressed from not just abandoning their existing oil and gas production, but setting the stage for them to then convert those assets immediately into carbon sequestration targets. So there is a dual revenue stream coming. There's not only abandoning and creating carbon credits, but then there's creating an opportunity for sequestration as a future revenue stream. So really exciting stuff.
Attendee asked, please define a polluting well.
Look, I think of this, any well that you have to go out and service, so you've put your Ford F-150 on the road and said, go out and check lease number 7, any well that has fugitive emissions, those of you responsible operators in the room, I know you're all checking your emissions, so if you've got an emission on a well and you haven't quite gotten around to fixing it, this is an opportunity to say, instead of driving out there and mobilizing an operation that, again, increases the carbon footprint of your business, let's look at this as a candidate for prematurely abandoning.
I think you may have answered this, but so if you have 25 1-barrel-a-day wells that you plug, you get 25 times 15 at least, if that's the price, equals 375. I mean, that's pretty much the math, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And let me get one more.
But the key here is converting not your barrels of oil per day, but the future recovery of that entire project area. So we're not just talking about today's rate, we're talking about the total volume. So I want to be careful about that answer. We want to look at the wedge of production that you will ultimately be abandoning. That becomes the basis for the conversion.
Okay, so it's a lot more.
It's
potential.
Significantly more, which is why we started here as opposed to just the orphan wells, but that's next.
Yeah, actually, and I know we're out of time, but that is something that I did want to bring up. What about the orphaned or inactive wells?
So, as I said, our goal right now is to really motivate the industry to do the right thing. And so we recognized that this needed to be able to be a project and an execution that you could approve at your management team, would make sense to make the capital dedication to do this. So we looked for the first and best way to deliver a value proposition, and that is converting the abandoned reserves to carbon credits. The next thing, which will be less accretive to your balance sheet, but will have more impact on the emission side, will be your orphaned and inactive wells. And so that protocol is second on the charts and should be out later this summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please join me in thanking Sam Holroyd.
Thank you.